I think it's a really good conversation about this space that we're in about capacity, creativity, and how it's so important to take care of ourselves. Um, Addie, I don't think you know this. My daughter broke her wrist yesterday,
Oh no.
and I clearly still have emotional stuff in here from it. But it's just like I'm tired. My brain can function basically, but I'm trying to be creative to write a workshop.
Oh,
And
it's so hard to do when your kid is hurt.
so, and then walk into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm doing a marketing launch thing with Jeff Walker, which is like 3 full-on days. And she was going to my parents, and now she's not.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, yeah, trying to
Oh,
navigate that. I slept for an extra 2.5 hours today, which is great.
good.
And so in this, right, we're talking about Women Talk Money this week, and then there's all of the life that happens for us, around us, to our people, for our people, all the things. And so that's why it's so important that we take care of ourselves. And we talked about dysregulation in the Women Talk Money Week of Inspiration for sure, but I can't remember. I think we've talked about it here too. And so it's just like, how do we? It's really important to me to function on a regular basis, not from dysregulation. And so to
Yeah.
have that calmer nervous system so that I can deal with situations like broken wrists and 9 hours in a hospital and things like that. And so, and then find the time and space to still do what I need to do and function. My mom is here, thank goodness. She leaves tomorrow, but she's here, so she's super helpful in everything. So I just kind of wanted to like presence that piece of the emotional regulation, dysregulation, and how important it is, so that when someone throws us a curveball, we're not already running on dysregulation and then have to navigate life, our life, the people around us that count on us and such.
Hmm.
So that's my evening rant.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband was kind enough to let me go up to Duluth last weekend. Um, and my friend Deb had invited me up just to get out of my home space and away from the clutter and whatnot. Um, and part of what really kind of put me over the edge last week is that my daughter had her neurosurgery appointment
Oh, wow.
and she has to have an MRI when she goes in. And so she has a magnetic shunt. And when they run the MRI, the shunt gets turned off. And so her brain starts producing too much fluid and it puts pressure on the inside of her brain. And they couldn't get it reset for about 2 hours.
Wow.
And they were not talking to me
Oh
about
my
what they were
goodness.
doing about it. And so I'm being nonchalant as possible in front of her while they're doing whatever, while I'm like, oh my God, I hope my kid's brain doesn't explode in the meantime. Yeah, so um, they did get it reset, but then the consequences is that my dear's got a really bad headache for like 2 days recovering from that. And it made me really really mad.
Well, and I think for me, you hit on a point that's really important is the communication.
Yeah.
Because when we took Amber into the second emergency room we went to, because the first one I wasn't waiting for 4 hours, I could get 15 minutes away from home at a quieter place, possibly have her treated quicker, all of the things. So I went to a different place, but they're like, oh, and I'd given her something, 3 hours earlier, like, oh, we're just gonna give her some Advil. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
why are you giving her Advil when I've already given her Tylenol? I need some more information. And so as soon as
Yeah.
she gave me the information, my brain was like, okay, good, because I'm not a pharmaceutical person,
Hmm.
right? I'm not like, let's see how much crap we can put in her. Yeah. So that information is so key.
Yeah, it
So
is.
we know what's going on, so we could like take a breath and go, okay, you've got this under control. Because if you're anything like me, you question the medical system left, right, and center.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always align with what they're doing. So if I know, I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then I think there's that piece that is trauma mode that we go into of, right, when your daughter's brain's not working, it's like you're in trauma mode, just like when they put my daughter in conscious sedation last night. She's
Yeah.
like there, but she is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freaky.
It is. Yeah, it's really
So,
scary.
so there's like, let's talk heavy money conversations, and then let's deal with child trauma, like not only our own, but our children that are our children. So I think it's important to remind ourselves of the complexity of our life, of our world, of how our brain works, of how our nervous system works, and then how it's all connected to everything. Right? I have my Hoberman sphere kicking around here somewhere. Oh, it's right over here of like the serious interconnection. To make this all work, there's a lot of things that are going on that are connected and need to be stable.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that, the challenge of it all. And some days are like, okay, I've got this. Life seems a little bit easy today. And then some days are like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And I also heard you talk about, Addie, is your support system, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we talk about that so much. It's like, who is your support system? And you're like, your husband, because he's like, you need to go take care of yourself. Go do this. Your friend,
Mm-hmm.
you need to come here and plunk you out of the chaos of your world or whatever it happens to be, so that you can have less triggers going on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, right, Belinda is so grateful. I'm like, hey, can you pick up my mom from the airport? She's coming from Edinburgh now. It's like, pick up my mom from an international flight, get my kids to a hospital, right? And so it's so important to build that network of people so that you can make that phone call and not feel guilty about it or question it or just not even know who to call because you're in such stress mode. So, yeah. So I'll take a big breath because I need it. You probably need one too. Anything you want to add to that, Belinda?
Uh, just that it was my pleasure to pick up your mom. She's lovely. We had a great conversation on the way in. But it's about having the people in your corner, and sometimes it's for a very specific part of your life, and sometimes it's for a more general part of your life. And knowing that you can just pick up the phone and ask that is priceless, right? Like when you have those connections, yeah.
Well, and I also think that sometimes we forget because we're like, oh, we don't want to bother people,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? And if I'd have told you 2 days later that I needed some help to get my mom from the airport, you'd have slapped me.
And I'd have been, why didn't you call? I'm right in Calgary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes we forget that piece that we do have a team. And then how do we use them? And then when we use them, they're more likely to use us per se, or
Yeah.
vice versa, right? There's this reciprocity that is not guilt or shame or anything. It's just this relationship that's there that
Mm-hmm.
has this reciprocity. So I think that's really important. And it takes a while, right? Some of us are so lucky to have those people in our house and in our close-knit families. Some of us have friends like that, and some of us are still building those people and trial and erroring those relationships. So, yeah. And then the only other thing I wanted before we dive into 10 breaths and our brags is, uh-oh, where did it go? Shoot. Oh, that like Belinda as a financial planner, if I'm someone who's like right now, I could not do any financial planning and future looking or anything like that right now. So I think when we're looking at our finances as women, it's like, okay, how do we do some planning so we set for ourselves up for success so we can look at our finances in a safe place where we're not already stressed. I started doing my April and May finances behind me, and now I sent my lady a message that said, you're not going to get them this week because I have a broken kid. She's like, okay, don't worry about it, no big deal. So now I need to tidy them up so they don't stress me out for the next couple of days as opposed to leave them there. So just being aware of when we do have that dysregulation for whatever reason, what we can do to get us back into regulation is so important so that we can make those futuristic, I don't know if that's the right word, but decisions to empower ourselves 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road,
Mhm.
when it comes to finances. So, yeah. Okay, let's go back to regular scheduled programming and do 10 breaths. And allow them to be breaths if you want. So inhaling, sighing them out. Just notice the difference you're beginning to feel in your nervous system and your body. Just allow yourself to take a couple more breaths. And then presencing your why tonight. Why did you come hang out with us? And you can come with a specific question or topic, or it could be as simple as, okay, I just needed a place to land today to regroup and recalibrate. Okay, allow yourself to take a few breaths. And then let's rub our hands together, generate some warmth. Placing your hands over your eyes. Bringing your chin to your chest. Removing your hands from your eyes. And what do we want to brag about today? Hey, Belinda, what does your cup say?
It says FAAFO. Do you know what that stands for?
I have no idea.
Fuck around and find out.
Nice. Is that your cup or an office cup?
It's an office cup. So for our team, the Ascension team, which seems like it would just not be part of anything, that, but it was kind of our motto, our creed, our war cry, battle cry going into this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like the puffed up cat over it too.
Well, and that, yeah. So the cat is, and mine's kind of ripped up, and I'm like, well, that just gives him street cred, right?
Totally.
Yeah, but he's a ChatGPT AI generated.
Nice.
And we had all sorts of different ones, and I'm like, no, I want the one that, well, first of all, looks like my cat, and secondly has like attitude. He's got attitude.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good. Love it. So we have a brag of humor, helps us calm our nervous system. Perfect. Okay, what do you want to brag about now that I've asked you about your cup?
So today we had last night in the office a really unique meeting, like a client / training meeting, and it was all about generational wealth, like how to pass on generational wealth for our families and whatnot. And there was a piece in there about estate planning. So usually it's only senior marketing people who get to do those meetings or do those presentations. And I got to yesterday. Yeah.
Cool. So that's amazing. I don't love that your situation got you a free pass into that.
Yeah.
But I love that you are on that. And we should talk later. I should give you some agriculture people that would be good to talk to that do estate planning, because agriculture is like
Mhm.
the calculus plus course that you
Mhm,
figure out for
mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah. And I think I love that you have different doors being opened to you because who you are. Not necessarily because of the situation with your mom, but also because who you are. So like high five to you and showing up and being, yeah, I'm gonna make a difference in this world, and sometimes balls to the wall, sometimes not.
Yeah, yeah. And I,
Yeah.
well, and I reached out today to the Confederation Park 55 Plus Club to do another of the like fraud and retirement wealth presentations as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. If you need to practice, let me know.
Okay, thanks.
What do you want to brag about, Addie?
Bruce and I met with our financial planner this week.
Oh, look at you guys go.
Yeah, well, so when Bruce's mom passed away, last year, he inherited a little bit of money from her, and we've never had even a little bit of money before. So right away, I called a friend of mine who's a financial planner and was like, "Help, we don't even know what these words mean."
Ah,
So she helped us out. She is now a housewife for her lovely husband, who's a fancy ass lawyer. And she passed us on to a colleague of hers. And so we had
nice.
our onboarding meeting with him and um, started to talk about our goals, started to talk about um, how Bruce and I can be more literate with our money and know
Cool.
what is happening to it, and might give us some worksheets to do, which look really, really helpful, just to help identify exactly where we're at with certain things.
Cool. That's awesome.
So, yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Cool. If you're allowed to, I would love to invite you to share those worksheets in the
Yeah,
chat.
I think I am allowed to. I'll double check with Mike, but he literally, he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." So,
And then can I give you a thought that came up?
yeah.
Um, how do you feel about having a male financial planner? And again, no gender bias intended. And then I'm wondering if your friend who's now the housewife, if you having side conversations with her might be helpful for you in this process.
It definitely will. And I'm gonna ask her permission if, I feel like I need a little bit of guidance from her. Um, because I inherently do not trust men. So, um, yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, this may be stepping over boundaries, over boundaries or not. She might be able to come to a meeting with you and then you guys can talk afterwards and
Yeah.
help you
Well,
unpack.
and she has always is she when she passed us off to Mike, she said anytime that you need me to like just be there to offer support, I can do that for you. So she just needed to step away from the
Yeah,
finance stuff.
totally.
Yeah, because she's an astrophysicist. She's not a financial person.
Cool.
Um,
So
so
yeah, so I would encourage you to take her up on that offer, whether it's
okay.
casual coffee or whether it's dive into it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was just kind of the hit that I got.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. So I want to brag about my support team. And I have emotions, which we'll just let be okay. So yesterday at the hospital with Amber, I'm like, part of me is like, yeah, I've got this. Ian doesn't need to come in. And I'm like, no, I need Ian to come in. Whether he's like, just for him to be there. And so at about 7 o'clock, I'm like, hey, can you come? Because he'd already offered to come. And I'm like, no, I think we're good. And then I'm like, no, you need to come. And so he got there just after they'd sedated her. So he got the entertainment of a consciously sedated child. and she was hysterical. But so like he was really supportive in that space of just kind of like holding the space, which was really great. And it was great to see him amused by her because she's amusing lots of times, but coming out of sedative, she was quite amusing. So that was really good to be able to like lean into that and go, no, actually, I want him here, and that's okay. And then today I needed to talk to him, and he didn't have capacity. And this is the first time I think that I remember him going, okay, I'm really sorry that you need more from me than I'm able to give right now. And so this difference in communication. So that's my brags about that communication piece in relationship. Because then it just makes me go, oh yeah, I don't have to do this all on my own. Even though I can, right? There's this old part of me, it's like, oh, I'm tough, I could do this on my own, I'm strong, I shouldn't need anybody else. And then it's just like, no, actually, I just want somebody else. So, Addie, that resonates with you for the lady that could help you with the financial stuff of, oh, I want this person alongside me rather than I need this person.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Okay. So I wanted to look at a tool, and Addie, I don't know if you've seen this tool from Kate before or not. Let me just do a screen share. And so I've played with it a little bit. I haven't used it with clients, but I wanted to share it because it's a really good visual. And sometimes people are motivated by money stuff. And so this comes from Kate Stillman, who's one of my mentors, and she does really great stuff. And one of the things I've really learned from her is to invest in myself, right? If I want to be the best that I can be, like I'm going to see my healer tomorrow. And I saw her last week, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going again because I need to see her again. So we're not going to fill out all the side details. I kind of want to show this to you. And if you want to do it with me, we can book a 15-minute complimentary call and we can go through it. But what I want to show you down here is this table and chart. So this is a list of expenses under this blue one that are expenses for opportunities to save money. So, and I'm going to do a quick kind of fictitious one per se, and then if somebody wants to do a real one on the screen, we can do that. Or if you want to do it in private, we totally can. So, for myself, so if we look at fast food eating out, okay, so let me slow down a bit. Estimated cost, then it calculates monthly, it calculates annually, and it has 36% rate on your return of investment over 30 years. So that's put in the equation somewhere. This section is designed to capture and summarize some items you currently spend money on, which represent potential opportunities to reduce costs by leveraging the things you will learn and start implementing them in your life after becoming a member of this community. So this is a bit of a marketing tool, but I think it's also just a really good visual. So if I am let's say I'm how do we want to do this? We've got single people and we've got people with 4 children. So let's do this on an individual basis. So if I think of me and the money that I spend out on a weekly basis, I'm going to say $40 because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do business stuff. I'll just put this on my business credit card, or I'd like a nice cappuccino or something like that. So I might spend $40 a week out and about on fast food items or food items, we'll call them, that are an extra that I could spend on. Let's say that I drink. And so let's do like a bottle of wine a week. And feel free to chime in, either of you, if you're like, oh, let's do this. Alcohol in bars. So maybe I, have a drink once a week with dinner with my boss. Something.
That's going to cost you $12, not 10.
Oh, I see you're a fancy drinker, Addie. Okay, $12.
If I am buying alcohol at a bar, it better be top shelf.
Okay. Okay, remind me never to offer to take you out for a drink.
I can't drink alcohol, so you're safe.
My total side tangent. We went to a rodeo the other night, which was lovely to hang out. And I'm like, oh, I got a Caesar in a can, which was super cheap. It was only $6, which would be like $4.50 in your world, Addie. And I drank it and I felt totally fine. But the next day it was like someone had taken a baseball bat to my insides. And I just was like, because and then I
Yeah.
realized I'm like, I don't actually think I've drank in 2024. And we're in June. So total side tangent, but so packaged processed foods from the market. Oh my goodness. So no emotional spending going on here. My daughter wants A&W last night and cornflakes. So she comes out of sedation commenting that the cast stuff is sticky and she wants A&W and cornflakes. So she's saying sticky, cornflakes, and A&W under sedation. So we went grocery store because she broke her wrist. So like, I'm like, I can float a box of cornflakes. We can live with this.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering if 50 is $50 a week adequate for processed foods? I would say possibly. Food wasted, purchased and not consumed. So I'm fairly conservative on this because we don't waste a lot of food. So I put $10 in that. Now I'm gonna need some help with these numbers because I do not spend. Well, actually, that's a lie. I just bought some stuff. I bought some adrenal fatigue stuff. So would that be like, I don't know, $20 a week? That would be,
Probably.
yeah.
It
Depends on what you're
depends.
getting.
It depends on the brand that you're buying.
Okay.
So standard process Adrenamin is $60 for 1 month's worth.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a really high-end supplement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then like if you had headaches, or body pain, you probably would spend a little bit on things like Tylenol and different things like that. So let's put $40 in there. And I again, if you're listening to this later, this is an estimation, as you can hear from our conversation. We all do things slightly different, and I can totally do an individual one with you. So super frugalist shopping retail therapy. So how often do you go? Like in a week, would you go shopping once and spend $20? We're gonna throw that out there. And maybe you spend 100, right? Maybe your grocery bill is $20 higher because, and that's kind of where you do your retail therapy. That could be my reality. Cosmetic medical procedures. I'm gonna leave that at 0 because yeah.
Not
Um,
our jam.
I'm just like, I don't even know what to say to that. Underutilized memberships, gyms, yoga, etc. So let's throw in there, let's just be the devil's advocate and throw in there $15 for Netflix and $15 for Amazon Prime. So that's $30 a month. Oh no, we better put an extra $10 in there for Kindle Unlimited. And again, those are my memberships and we utilize them, but that's an example, I think. Now, therapy and counseling is interesting for me because one of my kiddos goes to a counselor and she's friggin' amazing. And I go to different healers, I would say, and they're valuable. So they are not money that I'd be like, oh, I'm going to put somewhere else, right? The $200 I pay for the lady that I go see that does friggin' amazing things, I'll not do some of these other things so I can put that in my budget because I feel like that is a really good investment for me. What are other people's thoughts on that? Because I know people do different counseling or therapy or like healing appointments. And I guess for me, in my mind, like I said, that's different.
I agree. I don't know that that's an opportunity to save money because it is what it is. Like a good counselor, it's $200 easy.
Yeah. Yeah, our therapists are worth their weight in gold, personally. So, and we always I mean, we always go unless there's some massive blizzard happening or somebody's barfing. So,
So, and I think that's just a good conversation to think about is like, who do you see as a therapist or alternative therapy or whatever that is that works, like that really works for you? And thinking about, are you going to see someone who's like just okay and
Mhm.
up that caliber? Self-help books and courses. I don't really have any self-help books or courses sitting on the wayside that I'm not doing, but I do know that some people do. Thoughts on that?
See, I think maybe this isn't the best test group for that particular one. Same with the therapy and the counseling, because for us, like being in business, the books that I buy, I read, right? Like they're not just sitting there. And any of the courses that I pay good money for, I'm going to participate in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think that's okay, right? When we look at this list, it's like we don't have to be doing everything.
no.
And if you don't, and like I also think the self-help books and the courses that you buy, if you're doing them and you're getting value out of them and you're implementing them, I don't know that they need to be on this list. If you're purchasing self-help books and you've got 40 of them you haven't read and you've got 3 courses you haven't attended, I think that's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Other pharmaceuticals, I think we're going to leave it 0, and weight loss programs, we're going to leave it 0. So based on what Kate does, because she focuses on 10 habits that thrive, and because she focuses on helping you with inflammation, if you were someone who was investing in a weight loss program, doing Kate's program or my full year-long program, or even what Addie does, that would help you with your weight loss. I would say that's going to help you with your health in general, which is going to help you with weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, so this is I'm going to go on a bit of a side tangent here. I have a girlfriend who I talked to about this, and she talked about her partner and how kind of he spends and unconsciously spends. And we were like, oh, that's interesting. So we could change this to like a man list. No, no stereotype intended, like extra tools. There's already beer in here, but like things like that, like, I don't know, Addie, what your husband does, but it would be like for her husband, we could list 10 other categories that are totally different. So he could get a picture of where he is spending his money. So that's just a bit of a side tangent for Belinda or Addie or anybody else who wants to use this for something else. It's just like, oh, let's have a conversation with our kids or, our partner or whatever that looks like. So this is a really cool thing because these numbers are not big. And several of them are 0. But when we look at it on an annual basis, it adds up to $12,000. And when we look at it over 3 years, it's $36,000, which is just kind of a little bit mind-blowing when we look at the small numbers we might spend a week and how they add up to monthly. And even something like if we overspend $1,000 a month, and $1,000 in my brain right now, $1,000, I'm like, oh, that's not a lot. But then I'm like, oh, that's in a month. And then we put that in a year, and then we put it in 3 years. That's a lot of money. Like that's almost a new car for me.
Yeah.
And what strikes me about it too is in the blue section there, she's got like each year is the same amount of money. So for food and eating out, it's year 1 is $2,040, year 2 is $2,040, year 3 is $2,040 to a total of $6,120. But that price is going to go up every year because of inflation. So the one thing like that this chart doesn't account for is the rising cost of goods and services, right? So where it says 36,000, by the time we're done, like maybe it's 40, right? Yeah. So it doesn't account for those other pieces.
And I think too, right now in our world, it seems to be inflation is not like this small thing. I went to buy shavings for my garden the other day, Last time I bought them, they were $6 a bag and now they're 11.
Oh, my
And I'm
Lanta.
like, they're cut up pieces of wood. How is it
Yeah.
that they doubled in price? So just like you said, since the COVID stuff, prices are wonky. On the other hand, gas prices are not jacking up right before long weekends, which has been a thing for years and years and years here, Addie. I don't know what it's like in the States. And it was just like, oh, that they're
Well,
going down.
yeah, I mean, for us, our gas prices are driven by politics mostly. And so, because it's an election year and there's a Democrat in the office, gas prices are pretty high right now. Um, and then
So
once the election is over, the gas prices will go back down again.
yeah, okay. So and not right, it is in previous years, come to a long weekend, gas prices would go up and they haven't this year. And I'm kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That is
I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple more notes. Estimated percent reduction in identified expenses as a result of the course. So Addie and anybody else who's watching this, this is based, Kate uses this to help people wrap their head around the finances of why would you invest $5,000 in a course with Kate for a year? And this is kind of her backup. And so I put mine in here. So it's like my Healthy Teachers, Healthy Classrooms full year program is $3,750. And so over 3 years, it would cost you $11,250. So if you took my course, we would expect that you would spend less at restaurants, you would buy less alcohol because you would be struggling as much. Maybe your boss would have to buy you a drink. Or maybe you're like Addie and I, who's just like, we don't or can't drink because of whatever we've got going on and it just feels gross. Because you're focusing on your health and your habits, there's less spent on supplements. Because you're feeling better about yourself, you're not doing emotional therapy as much. And because you know how to take care of yourself, you're feeling like you need to go to the gym less and pay someone to walk you through a morning routine when you can do that on your own now. So this calculator identified the annual expenses of $12,000 of money we're spending that we don't really need to be spending. Estimated reduction, half. And so that has us saving $6,000 each year for a total of $18,000. But that $18,000 is unlikely to change that much unless you have a great team and great resources and some accountability to help you shift those habits, which is where hanging out in the Healthy Teachers, Healthy Classrooms for a year will really support you.
Did you go get your dinner?
So
Come up.
your rate of return on investment in the $11,000 you invest in my course over 3 years would be 61%. So this is just, and we can take this whole bottom section off. Like
Mhm.
Addie, you might be able to use this for your clients. But if we just focus on this piece for ourselves and not make it into a tool for marketing, these are pretty real numbers. Like, would you like, so what year are we now? Would you like in 3 years, Addie, there to be $36,000 more in your bank account?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
even 18,000?
Yeah.
So, this is a calculator that I have access to. If you want to have a conversation with me one-on-one about it, we can totally do that. And again, there's this process of no shame, no blame, right? Because can you do this in your head? I sure can't.
Mm-mm.
And when we talked about being in that dysregulated situation, it's like we just don't have the brain capacity to do this. So even as a financial advisor, Belinda, you're like, you can't do this in your head. Dave couldn't do
No.
it in his head, kind of thing. So I think it's just a really great visual tool for you to go, oh, if I only spent $20 a week, I'd save $3,000 in 3 years. So, yeah, okay. Belinda's any questions or comments or anything? Belinda has another tool to share with us too. Have you
This worksheet actually is what made me invest in a life coach, um, and is what got me in the direction of Kate in 2020.
Cool. And have your numbers changed and you feel like you're getting your investment back at?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Very, very definitely. Because I don't eat out nearly as much. I I don't drink alcohol of any kind, and processed food is a rarity in my house. So we do have a little bit of food waste, but not a ton of it. So um, and my supplements waiver because I'm using an herbal course to treat my Lyme. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
it's not
think,
wasted. Like I
mhm.
consume all of them.
Well, and it's interesting because I think for those ones, it's like 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because can you take the supplements and build the habits in, then decrease the supplements and then feel better, as opposed to the supplements taking 3 times as long? Like there's so many variables
Yeah,
in
yeah,
it all. Yeah.
yeah, there are.
And I think for kids too, I'm interested
Yeah.
to know what it would be like if I did something like this for my daughter who's 12 and her to go, holy shit, I would save $6,000 if we didn't spend $40 a week when we went out. Like, be interesting to do this with some young people too.
Hmm.
I think this would work for a lot of people, and not necessarily, and like with different categories perhaps, right? Like, and I think depending on your age, the categories change.
Hmm.
So to go out to the like estimated weekly cost to go out to the bar, I don't know that I'm going to the bar once a week, right? Like that, it's just those kinds of things. I think the categories would change depending on who you are and your age and your demographic and all of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for going through that with me, you two. And yeah, we can change these categories because like you saw that 4 or 5 of them didn't apply to us, but they might apply to, your regular average Joe on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's have you share your screen, Belinda. I don't know if we're gonna get to journal questions today or not.
Okay. No, it's already 6:17. Holy cow. Time flies. Can you see my screen, the undebted? It?
We
Yes.
can.
Cool. Okay, so I found this debt snowball calculator. There's a couple of them in the workbook. One is from Dave Ramsey that is really simple to use. It's a little bit simpler version of this, but there's some reasons I really like this one. And what it looks at is how to pay your debt off and which debt to pay off first. So all of this information here, I'm going to bypass and just get to the heart of it. This is a debt snowball calculator. And what I really love about this one in particular is it gives you choices. So this one offers you, like, are you going to pay your lowest balance first? Are you paying your highest interest rate first, highest monthly payment, highest monthly interest paid, or debt to interest ratio? So depending on what your balance and your interest is. So when we look at debt, first of all, there's lots of people who are really debt averse and they hate being in debt. And then there's times in our lives when we just have to accept that we're in debt. When we buy a house, we have a mortgage. If we go on vacation, sometimes we just have to put some stuff on our credit cards if that's what we want to do. But when we find ourselves in a position where the debt is almost overwhelming, then we need to look at what is going to bring us peace. And one of the financial strategies is to just chip away at it, right? Like success breeds success. Once you get rid of one, you can get rid of another and get rid of another. So what I really like about this one is the different ways that you can go about it. So right now we're going to leave it as the lowest balance first. I have about, let's say $500 a month. Oops, not zero, 500, $500 a month that I can spend on my debt. I have a credit card and my current balance on that credit card is $5,000. The minimum payment for that credit card is $100. I just made this up.
I
Like,
know, can we make our current balance like $2,000?
sure.
Maybe,
There's
I don't,
gonna-
it, in my brain, that just feels a little bit more realistic, but maybe not.
Okay, we can do 2,000 here. Know that there's more than one credit card.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Because
okay,
there's lots of people who they've got a Visa and they've got a MasterCard
Right.
and they have, right? So when I created this, it was kind of based on averages.
okay, so we'll just take Carmen out of the equation, because I'm not your average debt person.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm-
that's okay.
I'm gonna mute myself.
It's gonna work at 2,000 just as well as it works at 5,000, so no big deal. And then our interest rate we're gonna say is 18%. So lots of credit cards have super high interest rates. They're one of the things that you want to pay off first, unless you have a smoking deal. I know some people that I've been helping have like credit card interest rates of maybe 8 or 9%. That is a smoking deal for a credit card. 18 to 20 is average. So in our second row, we have credit card number 2. And on credit card number 2, we owe $3,500. And our minimum payment is $75. And our interest rate on this one is 20, because sometimes they're just more, like they're not all the same. And that doesn't include annual fees with credit cards. Sometimes you have to pay to be part of the club. It just depends on which credit card you've got. So always, for sure, if you're going to go get a credit card, and I'm not poo-pooing them, they have a place. Make sure you know what you're getting and that you're not getting surprises every year with an annual renewal fee. Know what your interest rate is. Be smart about it. And then we're going to add a third row. And Carmen might be having a conniption right now because there's 3 pieces of debt. And this one is a line of credit. And our line of credit is a measly $1,000. Usually when we have lines of credit, they're anywhere between $10,000 and like $10,000 and $500,000 available. And when those things are available, people tend to rack them up. They tend to be like, well, it's almost like free money. It's a line of credit. It's there and it's available, more so than a credit card even. Minimum payment for that, we'll say, is $200. And then lines of credit tend to have a smaller interest rate. Right now, lots of them are running at about between 13 and 15%, depending on what kind of line of credit you have. But on average, they're about 10%. So what this does for us, it says, okay, we have $100 to spend right now, or $500 to spend right now. Our total minimum payments are $375. And what we're going to do is we're going to pay the lowest balance first, which is our credit card number 1. And we click go. And what it tells us is how much to put on each credit card and each piece so that you are able to pay off those balances fast. And I know it came up at $325 for our line of credit. That's where it wants us to put the most money. It's also our biggest debt. But when we scroll down, and it tells us too how long it'll take us to pay it off. So it will take us till September 2025 to pay all of that off, just making the minimum payments. It also tells us how long it would take if we only did minimum payments. So this is what I really like about this one. So if we're only paying the minimum amounts due, which here up at the top we said was $200, $175. That's all I'm paying. It's going to take me till August 2031 to pay those debts off.
So it takes 85 months instead of 16.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep. So
Oh my God. Okay.
it also looks at the interest. If we pay it off according to what this debt calculator tells us, our total interest paid is $843. If we only pay the minimum, we're paying almost like $3,700 in interest by only paying the minimum. Now, is it always possible to have a few extra bucks to put into our debts? No, but every chance we get, we can. So look, thinking about the financial calculator you just had, the spreadsheet, Carmen, if we looked at that and went, okay, is there a spot? I'm just going to zip up to the top here. Is there a spot? Because this is 375 altogether, and this
That's
is
only
500.
I have to jump in.
Yeah.
So that's only, that is spending $125 over top of your minimum payments. And
Yes.
that's it. And
That's
it takes 69 months off your payment plan.
Yes.
Which is almost 7 years. Holy
Yep.
shit.
Yep. So looking at your spreadsheet, is there a spot where we can cut back somewhere, save that $125, add it to our debt payment, and get ourselves out of debt faster?
Okay,
Now,
cool.
yeah,
I want to flip screens and do that.
okay, well, I'll just show you one other thing. So when we have all of these things, like we can go now and say, all right, this is our debt snowball calculator, and they call this the debt avalanche, and you want to attack the highest interest rate first. So when I do that and I say go, what it's telling us then is that we should, because our highest interest rate is this 20% on credit card number 2, that most of our money should go to that we should be putting $200 on that, $100 on the other credit card, which is the minimum, and $200 on the line of credit, which is the minimum. So we're front loading this credit card too. And as we go down, it's giving us close to the same information. This one over here said 13 months in the other, doing the lowest one, now it's 14 months, going to take us an extra month. We're still really close in the same range as far as interest goes, and how much we're paying. Still 85 months, right? Yeah. So it's worth playing with, because different options will offer you different interest rates and different how long it'll take you to pay that debt off.
So just for the fun of it, Belinda,
Mm-hmm.
can we go in and change, and I should have just shut my mouth earlier,
That's okay.
that credit card one, what if you put it at $10,000?
Okay. Are we leaving everything else the same?
Well, the minimum payment on $10,000 is probably more like,
Let's say 250.
now that.
And that's pretty high. The 250 would be pretty high as a minimum payment, but
Okay, let's leave it at let's actually leave it at 100, because then that doesn't change our budget.
Okay.
We have to pay it off.
okay.
I'm just curious to know what happens if that happens.
So we're leaving our debt
think so.
payment like at $500.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so I'm just going to scroll to the bottom here where the good stuff is. Apparently we're we would never paying just the minimum amount. This one,
You would be dead before it was
yeah, you're going to be dead. Taking that debt to the grave. This one, you would be saving still $4,000 worth of interest, and you'd be done in 3 years.
Yeah, cool. And so now that you've done that, it's
Mhm.
like, I think for me, I don't want a $10,000 credit card payment that I can't pay off.
Right.
Right. And so that for me is like, oh, that's just a different eye opener. I like the calculator, like, oh, you're never going to pay that $10,000 off if you only have $125 extra you can put on it on a month.
Yes.
So that's powerful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then if we change this and say the highest, that's the highest interest rate, and say the highest monthly, no, let's go debt to interest ratio, see what happens. Ding. Okay. So again, we would never pay it off, and we're
Yeah.
still sitting in the same spot, right? So it's just, it's an interesting way to look at things. And if you go back and look at your spreadsheet, or you look at your budget, because again, a budget is meant to be a positive thing, not a limiting piece of paper. It's meant to prioritize what's most important to you. And if this like credit card is $10,000 worth of vacation and travel, and that's important to you, then you're gonna budget for that and have the extra money to put on it to go and finance your next vacation. Like that's airplane tickets and hotels and whatever else, right? But this is just another way of looking at what's my debt and how am I going to make it manageable, right? Yeah, I really like this calculator. I think that it is quite eye-opening and it gives lots of information.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't wait to, first of all, I'm going to share it with Lynn because I think she'll just get her organization button tickled.
Yeah.
And then-
It'll be a brain buzz. She'll learn
Yeah.
over it. Yeah.
She loves to organize things and like
Yeah.
do the planning and stuff.
Yeah.
And then to show my husband, because I have such a hard time convincing him that if we just even put an extra $20 on our mortgage payment every month, we're going to pay it off so much faster
Yeah.
than in 30 years. And, you know, yeah, wow.
So we're just going to flip back to this. So we were looking for $125 extra a month, right, Belinda? So if we
Yeah.
look at this second column, if we budgeted ourselves $20 a week to go out for fast food, if we so that's half of 17 is $80. If we only spend half as much on liquor, that's
Another
150.
50. Yeah.
So within our first four categories, we can easily find that $125 only by cutting back what we're doing halfway.
Yeah. And then again, this is not meant to be limiting. It's not that you're denying yourself. It's what are your priorities? So if your priority is to be debt free, and for lots of people it is, then you have to make the accommodations to do that. Like it's not just going to happen all by itself. It's not magic. There's no house elves coming along and just sprinkling fairy dust all over your bank account and being like, I got this, right? It needs to be actively managed, which we talk about in the workbook, making those dates with yourself and your bank account. And just, that's maybe when you owe yourself the glass of wine. And it makes it easier to sit, have a glass of wine, and look at your finances, because it's not just going to happen without you actively managing it.
Yeah. And like, Addie, you talked about the power of something visual to show your partners, to show your kids, to show your friends. And so the other thing that I was thinking about too is this idea of accountability. It's like, I would be better off to book a 15-minute meeting with Belinda once a week. And her and I could talk finances for me, and we could talk habits for her, or something like that. Because then she's the financial accountability person for me, and I'm her habit accountability person. And so then there's this, because I've been trying to book a meeting with myself for a few years to look at my finances each week. It's not happening. Even though I know I need to do it, even though I'm really good at building habits, even though I've got a kick-ass team of people around me, but it's just like, oh, I'm not doing that piece of that weekly accountability, because that would look totally different in my world. And I think sometimes, and I've asked my husband to do it, but he doesn't have that accountability piece for me, because he's super accountable to himself, like just sickeningly super accountable to himself. But he doesn't play that role of accountability for me very good, because he's so busy in what he's got on the go. So it's just like, oh, then he's not my person. I can be cranky at him that he's not doing it, but really he's not my person to do that with. So it's like finding that person that can do that, and building that relationship, so that you can have those conversations. You can have, it's almost like practicing the conversation before you have the conversation with your partner, maybe. So, yeah, very cool. I want to share one more thing. And I know we're over time, so if you have to go, Addie, I totally understand, but I want it to be part of the recording. Tools like this are so cool for that visual piece. And then I took a course called Money Mastery in 2007, and then I volunteered for it in 2008. And from that course, paid all my debt off. We never had a debt calculator that showed us that, but one of the things I walked away from that is I do a 4 accounts money system, because often we say I don't have any money, right? That's a belief system that goes in our brain. I taught my child well, which I'm just like, oh my God, I gotta unwind this somehow. But so one of my bank accounts and the premises behind is right now, I used to put $100 in a month into 4 different bank accounts. I only put in like 5 right now just because of my financial position and because I'm focusing on my business. But that $5 or $10 goes in, 10, 5, whatever it is, goes in each month. And one of those accounts is called, what's it called? I can't think of what it's called right now, but it's a fun account. So I only can spend the interest, and I can spend the interest on anything I want. And so the idea is my money is making money for me. And when you start out, you might get a penny worth of interest. So then you take that penny out and you go do something with it. The lady that taught it to me, she took that penny out, she got all dressed up, she went downtown some big city, went to the botanical garden that had a wishing well in it. So it was like a full half-day experience her penny bought her. So, and her money made money. And so A, you can never say you don't have any money. B, that account you only spend the interest on. And then your money grows itself as you continue over time. So that's just a little bit of a side tangent, but I wanted to throw that in there. And I think, Belinda, you hit on something that's really important, and Addie, you too. It's just like long-term. What do I want long-term? How do I want to feel in 5 years? Where do you want to be with your kids and your family and your health and finances and all those things? So then we play for that long game. And I know, Addie, you hang around with Kate enough to know that it's just like, yeah, the long game, what's going to get me to the long game? Because right now I feel like crap. And if I don't do what I know to get me to the long game, I'm going to feel like crap in 5 years too. And I'm going to have felt like crap 4 or 5 years. So what is it that inspires you to play the long game? And there's going to be days where it's just like, all you've got is the short game. And that's okay, because that's just life, I think. But when we have that goal in mind of I'm changing the face of education, then that's what I'm doing every morning. I'm waking up, except for maybe today because I'm having trouble functioning. And that's okay, because 80% of the rest of the time, I run that game of that long game. So when I can't, or I'm taking time off for that 20% of the time, it's like, oh, that 80% can run itself. Yeah.
Are you going to take a bath tonight, Carmen?
I'm probably going to soak my feet.
Okay.
Because I can't. So here's my rant. Because of my adrenal fatigue, I can't do cold plunges anymore.
Oh, sure.
And it.
Oh,
sucks
I just meant like maybe an Epsom bath.
Then I'm too hot when I sleep, I think. We'll see. I
Okay.
need to do something, but I might do that and read my book.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. You can't do cold plunges with adrenal fatigue.
I'm like,
your body freaks out.
I'm so sad about that. So sad about that. Yeah. So what are your thoughts and your takeaways? I know that was a fair amount of holy crap. Look at the numbers change. But give yourself some time to kind of like digest it and go, oh, what is my debt? What is my long game? And do I want to be out of debt, or do I want to give $10,000, which could be 2 or 3 years worth of holidays, to my interest payments or to the drinks I drink, or and no judgment at all on whatever you're spending your money on, right? Quite frankly, it's your money, it's your rodeo, you do it. Just because I might do it differently doesn't mean I'm trying to be judgy or anything. It's just different observations of how we live our lives. So I think that's an important piece too, that we don't shame ourselves or feel embarrassed or go, oh, how come I didn't know that, or how come I didn't realize it? Be careful of those ruts that you might fall in as you look at these. And again, Belinda and I are here. And if you look at this in another month or two and you're like, oh, reach out. It's not like Belinda and I are going to fall off the face of the earth and this is a one-shot, one time only kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
Carmen, you know you're stuck with me like a leech on your butt, so.
I've never had leeches on my butt. They've only been on my legs.
Oh, okay.
Well, I get to see you in 2 months, and
I know.
I'm trying to get to Belinda to come to Wyoming with me.
Oh, well, you should come, Belinda. It's so fun. It will rock and change your world all at the same time.
It'll mess you right up.
It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So Addie's going to be in Wyoming. What are your takeaways from today, ladies?
My takeaway is something that Belinda said, which is going to help me with my mindset around money, is that a budget is not uh, repression. That's not the word you used. I can't remember. What was the word that you used,
It's
Lindsay?
not limiting.
It's not limiting.
Yeah.
It's
It's not a punishment.
prioritizing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a punishment.
yeah, yeah. And until this moment, budgets have always been a punishment in my world. So, yeah. So that's my big takeaway today.
You can move it from your weaknesses over into your strengths of it's one of your tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? I see it as a tool now. And it's just like,
Yeah,
oh, I can use this tool.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Addie.
My takeaway was the um the chart that you had up, and I know you and I have looked at it before, just briefly, but in conjunction with the debt calculator, I was like, oh, that just total, like they're hand in hand. Then that makes total sense. That was my takeaway, was having those things like, what am I spending my superfluous money on that I really don't need to, that I could save and put a little bit more on my credit card and knock that down. And yeah, that those two things really went hand in hand.
So yeah, I like that too, that how they did go hand in hand and how you and I were looking at them totally different and not hand in hand. But the power of conscious choice, I think, is for me. When we see things like that, we can be like, oh, I'm spending $10,000 over 3 years on XYZ, and I really don't want to be doing that. So how can we shift? And how can we use things like the habits or the things we know lift us up, help us feel better and build our capacity, rather than going for a nice cappuccino or right or whatever that is. So that, and it's so interesting. I'm like, do I have a nice cappuccino for $3 or do I pay $10 for a booster juice? I'm gonna pay $10 for the booster juice because it's gonna make me feel better
Mm-hmm.
than the $3 of the iced cappuccino over the next 24 hours, because I won't have the inflammation and like all of the things that come with the iced cappuccino, as opposed to the energy boost, nutrient content boost from the booster juice smoothie, and like all the other things that go with it. So yeah, it's always fascinating how our brain negates or gives us permission to do one thing but not the other when we have these little financial conversations. Oh, it's like I can't spend $10 on a smoothie. It's just like, why not? You're gonna get $10 worth of value, as opposed to the $50 the iced cappuccino is gonna suck you. Ask Belinda, we had a planning strategy meeting and I had nice cappuccino before and I should not have. So yeah, great conversation. And so I have a question as far as permission goes, and Addie, this is more as for you. Are you okay if we use this video in future Women Talk Money courses and to send to the people who did the week of inspiration last week, to give them this tool as a bonus because it's so powerful?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I hope that, because I know you have access to that tool, well, both those tools, and I do love the using them in conjunction. That's like so friggin' powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually excited to sit down and show Bruce both of those tools and um, implement and use them. Because I think, he operates like I do from scarcity. So I think he can see how much we can save and what our financial power actually is in real life.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for the extra 15 minutes. We had so much fun. We had to spend extra 15 minutes together tonight.
Yes.
And again, have fun with it, play with it. Notice when the Band-Aid's being ripped off and when you're being triggered, and reach out to us or your support system or whoever that is you can have a safe conversation with, or go lay on the ground and take 10 breaths, or go put your feet out in the grass. Do those things that we often take for granted that actually help us make us feel better. I'm going to go put my feet in the grass. Oh, it looks like the wind isn't so windy. It's not going to blow me away here. It's been
Well, and I don't think it's raining here anymore either.
I don't know if we got rain. It's disgustingly windy all day. Okay.
All right.
Have an amazing evening and tomorrow, and we will see you next time we see you. Thanks so much for showing up, Addie. I love having you here.
Thank you so much. You too. This
You're
is really
welcome.
helpful.
Bye.
Bye.